Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Mark Amodei joins us for a two-part interview on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed. Now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Enjoy exceptional value and a comfortable atmosphere at Reno's newest steakhouse, Nevada Steak.
Your good times at Tamarack.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are pleased to welcome back to the broadcast Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2. Pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thanks, Sam.
We are taping this on the Monday morning of the 11th. This is just a few days after what happened in D.C. Let's start out with, where were you when the Capitol was invaded?
I was in my office in the Cannon Building across the street, and actually before that happened, we had been evacuated because they'd found 2 pipe bombs. One at the Jefferson Library, which is across the street from us, the Madison, not the Jefferson, and another one in front of the Republican National Committee. They think the same individual, because they've got him on tape, also put one in front of the Democratic National Committee. So it wasn't like he was being partisan, apparently. So we were evacuated. This is while the Arizona debate was going on, and as people were gathering, at the Capitol, then they had cleared the bombs, allowed us back in, and were watching the debate, because I'd said, I want to see the debate before I kind of figure out, I want to make sure I've considered everything before I vote on the Arizona protests. And it's while we were watching that, through the video feed into your office from the floor, that it's like, hey, we're going to be in recess, and then they had stormed the barriers, gained access to the building, and were basically, having their way inside the building.
And what were your thoughts on that?
Sam, it's like, first and foremost was because we didn't know at the time, in real time, that somebody had been killed. Ultimately, several people would die from that. A Capitol police officer was bludgeoned, ultimately to death, with a fire extinguisher. And then when you watch the videos online, in terms of the young lady who was an Air Force veteran who was shot by a Capitol police officer who was basically the only guy between that group at that east door to the speaker's lobby, and there were still members on the floor. And so you're sitting there going, hey, I'm all for people being able to, whatever your opinion is and whatever, it's like, it's America, you can have that. But quite frankly, that display for that symbol I'm just sitting there going, hey, I don't care what your politics are, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's like, this is shameful, historical, awful. And then as more stuff comes in, I mean, you see, it's like what happens at that door in terms of. And then I got to tell you, the other thing is having been on the Ledge Branch Appropriations Committee, which supervises the Capitol Police, the Sergeant at Arms, the Library of Congress, all those things. I'm just sitting there going, I know what the Chief of Police for the Capitol Police is doing right now. He's got boxes in his office and he's taking stuff off the wall and putting it in there, because that is, I mean, that's the central reason for the Capitol Police to exist. They got the whole campus, but it's like, that's like a chess game. That's your knight. Somebody just came in and punched your knight your king. Somebody just came in and punched the king in the nose. I mean, that's it may not be fair, but it's, the Navy people know if you're the captain of the ship, even if it's not fair or whatever, it's like, but it's pretty clear that there was quite a bit of lack of appreciation for the rally, the timing. Everybody knew they were coming there afterwards. And so what was done in terms of staffing and what the procedures were, it's like, what, and there's plenty of time for that, but I mean, you say what was going through your mind, I'm going, this is a very, very bad day, not only for the American people and the Capitol, but it's like, it's an awful day for the Capitol Police.
Were you pleased that Congress went back into session later in the day and stayed till 4 in the morning?
I didn't think they would, but it's like, you know what? I mean, I think that was the right move. It's like, okay, clean the mess up, go back, take the votes on the two states that were ultimately protested, finish your job for canvassing the electoral vote, and then, let the recriminations begin.
How do you feel about the president's comments to the crowd before the actual march down Pennsylvania Avenue? Do you think that he was inciting what eventually occurred?
Well, do I think he has responsibility for what occurred? Yes. In the political, when you look through everything through a political lens, of course there's people like, this is all on you. And it's like, well, guess what? He's got responsibility there. Do I think it was great that you were calling out people by name? Liz Cheney. I may not agree with but it's like, what did you think Liz Cheney was going to do, Sam? Do you think she was going to go in her office and close the door and cry? I mean, she's the daughter of the vice president in Bush 43. And so when you start, and I get it, but it's like, quite frankly, the fact that there was a lot of pushback on the whole, did I win or lose the election, is like, you know what, I guess you can do that. And if you want to hold him completely accountable for that, like some do, saying, I want to impeach you within a week of being gone anyhow, then you know what, I guess we'll find out where everybody sits on that. But I'll tell you this, we didn't get there in a vacuum. And while he may have been pushing the envelope as hard as he could, and now in hindsight it's like, let me tell you what, it's the Navy thing, it was your rally, and they went to the Capitol after that, and this happened. So, your words, it's fair to say you had a piece of this. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like you had a piece of this. Now, did he tell him to go up there and basically trash the building and result in the deaths of multiple people? Obviously not. So you get into the whole thing of, well, you knew or you should have known or whatever, and it's like, we'll do that forever. I think the saddest thing about it is, listen, you've got responsibility for that. But now that that's going on, the thing that I'm looking at on both sides of the aisle is like, so what did leadership do while this was real time? And quite frankly, this was a phenomenally historic time. And it's for everybody to go, here's my Twitter thing or my this or that. It's like, quite frankly, it's my opinion, somebody should have gone out on the steps. And you're like, well, that was like, yeah, get those guys and girls around me. But it's like somebody needs to take charge of this and tell these people to get the hell out of there. It's like, now we're all back in our little Twitter bunkers. That's not leadership, Sam. And quite frankly, the stuff that the president put out, I mean, having watched the president's communication style for 5 years, I mean, he was clearly subdued, where it's like, you need to go home and we need to have peace. And it's like, you know what? Anyhow.
Who should have been on the Capitol steps?
Well, you know what? I mean, we got Mitch McConnell, we got Chuck Schumer, we got Kevin McCarthy, we got Nancy Pelosi, we got Steve Scalise. All, and I'm just saying, this was not a time to be in the bunker on the phone saying, I mean, it's like people are starving for real leadership, not Facebook Olympic gymnasts, not evening news political Olympians, and it's like so everybody, and it's like, hey, how about somebody going out there and going, and by the way, it's like, I don't know what you got to do, but the way you deal with this is you get overwhelming force and you sweep them out of the way.
Would you not think that at that point, law enforcement of whatever league was in charge at that point in time would have cautioned those leaders that you would be in danger of being shot if you were to do that?
First of all, we'll see, but quite frankly, the reports on weapons are like, they had them, they didn't. Well, we found some ammunition, but and this may change, Sam. Maybe I've missed something, but it's like this was a riotous mob. I didn't hear anything about guns, and of course they're going to caution them about that. But it's like, let this. I mean, obviously the preparation was such where you're like, hey, there weren't enough people there to handle it, and by the time you get them there, even though you put out it's just an abject failure. I mean, you can blame Donald Trump, and he's got some blame. You can blame the Capitol Police in a professional thing, at least the leadership, and it's like, and they've got some blame. The plan was absolutely, but you're sitting here looking at this, and it's like, I'm just sitting there. It's like there was let me put it this way, there was sure as heck a vacuum. And somebody say, well, maybe you would have gotten beat up or overwhelmed or whatever, but it's like, you know what? Okay, but you tell me what the leadership move was, because what was done there was not leadership.
When you look at the situation with the Capitol Police, the lack of large numbers of National Guard, where was the intelligence? Where was the FBI? Where were, we've seen in Reno in incidents where there are police forces in Reno that most people don't know exist. I mean, every agency, it's almost like the Humane Society has armed guards at this point in time.
Yeah.
And DC, for anybody who's spent any time in there, knows that every inch of that city is covered in police. And yet there was, you talk to anybody about what was happening on Twitter, Facebook, etc., everybody knew this was going to go down, and yet where was the intelligence that said, we need to be prepared?
Good question. The Capitol Police have an intelligence section. I mean, you say, where's the intelligence? And you name these other, they have an intelligence section that watches social media, blah, blah, blah. They have plainclothes people. And I don't think I'm not, but it's like there's plainclothes people circulating throughout the campus even during normal times. And so I am sure that and it's like, so first of all, when you say, well, what did you think was going on before they started arriving? That intelligence section, I'm sure, had a really good idea of what was going on. I'm sure they had people down there and other law enforcement agencies at the rally, just kind of, which way's the wind blowing, what's the mood, blah, 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 so that when they started moving towards the Capitol, that there was probably a pretty recent intelligence assessment going on there. And so you say, and listen, the 2020 hindsight is not fair, but it's going to happen. And so you're sitting there going, what was there? Was this just spontaneous combustion, blah, blah, blah? And it's like, you know what? I don't know. I wasn't standing there watching it first person, but it's like, as you indicate, it's like, hey, they had to know that this was going to be a pretty big challenge that day. And so the preparedness factor, and that, even with their intelligence resource, the preparedness factor was clearly somebody missed a steal second sign, because it was not prepared.
Okay, so when you think of what we looked at over the last 10, 15 years, NSA surveillance, on, every intelligence agency, and they have so much information.
Yes.
So And you're absolutely right. It's going to take years for us to figure out everything that happened, and historians will be able to detail what really happened on that day. But it just seems like, for all we had, that what we know is after the fact, not in front of the fact.
Yeah. And
that's kind of scary in the world we live in.
I'm not gonna debate you on that point, because quite frankly, I don't disagree with you. It's almost like, hey, here's the defense. We know they're going to run a sweep left. Okay, we know they're running a sweep left. Okay, call the defense for a sweep left and execute. And it's almost like, even though you knew there was going to be a sweep left, you were in a prevent pass defense. Or, I don't know. I'll say this: the Capitol Police's mission, most of the time, is allow people to exercise their First Amendment rights. Don't do hats and bats and stuff like that. And they try to err on the side of, you get to say whatever you want when you are in that deal. And there's demonstrations on that block, if you will, all the time.
Right.
And so I get, and I don't fault them. It's like, okay, your job is to make sure that everybody, if you look sideways, you don't get stuffed and cuffed and all that stuff. But this, you had to, I mean, everybody was going, and then they're going to the Capitol, and it's going to be, and so it's like, well, okay, so they put up the barricades that are this high. I can tell you right now, if you go to Washington, D.C., that they've got the 10-foot high uber security stuff all around the Capitol. And I remember saying to the young lady in my office who did tours for people in normal times, I said, I hope you have some real good memories of the last tour you did, because access to the Capitol will never be the same. And I said, it won't be the same for me as a member, and it won't be the same for people coming back to D.C. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like you can't even walk across Independence Avenue, which is the one that goes down the House side, and go on that block anymore without somebody going. And I said, my access, which is pretty easy by virtue of having an ID card and a lapel pin, if you're wearing that, I says, I expect my access will be different.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back more with Congressman Mark Amodei after this timeout.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed. Now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
Hey, Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
Ahern Rentals began as Signal Gas Station on Las Vegas Boulevard. Founder John Ahern grew the business by offering rentals. His son Don built on John's legacy, growing Ahern Rentals into the largest independently owned American rental company, with 89 locations in 30 states. Don also brought his experience and vision to equipment manufacturing with Extreme Manufacturing and Snorkel. Today, Ahern Rentals continues to bring its family values to a new generation. Learn more at ahern.com.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Get in on the action at the Tamarack Casino and win your share of $100,000 guaranteed. Now through February 27th, plus 5 times points every Friday. $100,000 guaranteed at Tamarack Casino. Your good times are at Tamarack.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei of CD2. The reports, and again, I'm going to say that we are not going to know, we'll never know 100% the truth, but we'll know a lot more truth in days, weeks, months, perhaps years. But what are your thoughts on reports that Capitol Police actually let in some of these demonstrators and actually took selfies with them?
I don't know about that. I mean, if they did, they'll be out there. I can tell you that I watched the Capitol Police at that east door of the Speaker's lobby, which is where I come and go to votes if I'm walking outside, which will be an interesting thing to see if you can even do that anymore. But there were 3 of them there at the beginning, and they have sidearms on, but you've got a hallway, Sam, that's like double the distance between you and me, wide, that is filled with people. So it's like, I don't know, that you could see, although that wasn't all. There were at least 50 people there, and they were in close proximity. There was no COVID-19 protocols being observed at all. And so they were like literally, inches packed in. And you hear the language and the discussion, but at one point in time it goes to, we don't want to hurt you guys. We're going to make a path here, because they would have had to. We're going to make a path here, and you guys need to leave. And at some point in time, because I had heard that, and I'm going, what? And then you watch it play out, and it's like those 3 people decided to leave, and your first reaction is, are you? But I watched that develop, and I don't blame those 3 guys for leaving. What were they supposed to do? These people are already reaching around them and shattering the glass in the windows and basically trying to forcibly vandalize and destroy their way into that. Oh, and by the way, on the other side of that door, there were still members of the House in the chamber. When they evacuated those guys, a good friend of mine was in there, Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania. They went out the west door. They evacuated him out the west door of the Speaker's lobby. He looked to his left down the hall at the east door, and they were there yelling. And so it was, and you're sitting here going, as awful as this was, and you're sitting there going, there was 3 Capitol Police, where was their support? There was 1 Capitol Police lieutenant in there. When those 3 guys left, there was the door, windows broken, blah, 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 furniture stacked up against it. There was a Capitol Police lieutenant there who was the individual who drew their weapon and ultimately fired, hitting the Air Force veteran lady. And I'm sitting there going, I'm watching all this in real time going, because when you hear about it, you're going, I'm not so sure. And you watch this and you go, I don't know that I can blame the guy. When you put the part in where if they'd have come through that door, they'd have not only had the House chamber, but they'd have had House members that were still in there. And you're like, well, what's that mean? It's like, I don't know what that means, but I know that opens a whole new set of possibilities. Would there have been batteries going on? Would there have been hostages? Who knows? But it's like, so when you sit there and you say, well, and it's like, well, I don't know whether they let them in or whatever the heck they did. If they did, hypothetically, it's like, well, depending on the circumstances, if they were given no tools and no additional support, at that point in time they had to make a decision. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like you said earlier. It's like, well, if I'm going to go out there and attempt to be a leader, if I'm placing myself in danger, it's like, well, absolutely you're going to be in danger. But if you can't even, so I don't know. I mean, everybody's having a blast with 20/20 hindsight.
All right, and that's all we have. Let's take a break. We'll come back more with Congressman Mark Amodei after this timeout.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you. But we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us, so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're having a conversation with Congressman Mark Amodei. You've been kind enough to agree to stick around for a second show. So we'll take a break and then we'll come back and do part 2. So we'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Kenny! Dad? Are you learning? This place is great. Huh? You gotta try this.
Wow, this stuff is great. People are gonna love it.
Yes. Yes, they will.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
You can now watch Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Nevada Newsmakers and become a subscriber. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching and listening.